In this video I'm going to run through all the preparation required to do the Marbletop composite. This process can be done either to new or existing worktops, both exactly the same. So I'll just get to it and show you the different steps that are involved. Okay, so the first stage of the prep using the Marbletop composite is a 2-to-1 mix, 2 parts of the compound, 1 part water. This is just a brush coat to act as a sort of primer. So all you'll need is the composite, container to mix it in, container to measure your water, a brush and something to stir it with. So I'm going to get 200 mils of the composite, and I'm going to mix that with about 100 mils of water. And just give that a good stir. What you're looking for when using the composite is just to make sure that all the lumps are out of the mixture. So this one's a fairly thin coat, so it's fairly easy to mix. So just give that another quick mix with a brush, just to make sure that all the lumps are out of it. And then all you're needing to do is apply a coat, brush coat all across. With this, you're wanting to make sure that you get all the edges anywhere that you're going to be applying the epoxy. Just making sure everything's covered. There's no none of the MDF or countertop showing through. And then once we're happy that we've got every little bit covered, we leave that to cure. Now the curing obviously depends on the temperature that the room that you're doing's at. So a reasonable sort of 22-23 degree temperature. It should take roughly around half an hour to 40 minutes to cure up. So we'll come back to that in a little bit when it's all dried, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so now that's been cured up for a while, you can see there's quite a big difference between how it looked when I first applied it and how it looks now it's dry. So now we're going to move on and do the edging details, but first, before you do that, just need to give it a quick rub over with the rubbing stone, just to make sure that we knock off any high spots or anything like that. That's all it takes. Okay, so the mix that we're going to use for the compound is 4-to-1, so 4 parts of the compound to 1 part of water. So I'm going to put 400 mils of the powder into my mixing container and add the water, and again just give it a very good mix till all the lumps are out. So this mix of the compound should be fairly stiff because you're wanting to apply the edges, so you're wanting it to stick, so it needs to be fairly thick. So once you're happy that all the lumps are out, you just want it to stick onto the mixing stick or trowel, whatever you're using to mix it up. That's the perfect consistency for doing the edges. So regardless of whether you're doing a smooth edge or the chipped stone edge, the process is exactly the same for both. Get some of the compound onto the edge of your trowel, and then apply to the edge, ensuring that it goes over the top of the board. So as I said, the process is the same whether you're doing the chipped edge or you're going to do the smooth edge. So we're going to let that set up sort of 10 to 15 minutes, so it's a little bit firmer, and that'll allow us to create the smooth edge, or alter the chipped edge if we're not happy with what we've done. It's had a bit of time to cure up now, so before it gets too hard, we're just going to tidy it up a little bit. So if you're going to do the smooth edge, now's the time that you do that. So basically you just flatten down what you've applied till you get a nice smooth finish. Once you've done, you can trim off any excess on the top or the bottom. To get a real smooth edge, you can keep coming back to it, refloat it 2 or 3 times as it's curing up. So on the chipped edge now, you can either just tidy up the top and the bottom if you're happy with everything that you've done, or at this point, you can come in and you can tweak any little bits that you might not totally be happy with. You can always add a little bit more of the compound if you want to create a bit more detail. And that's essentially it. So I'm going to do 2 sides with the chipped edge and 2 sides with a smooth edge, so I can show you what the finished look will be on both things. So I'll just finish this up, and again, once you're happy that your edges are how you want them, you just leave it for sort of for 40 minutes to an hour. The drying times can be sped up slightly by the use of hot air fans, electric fans or anything like that. But obviously, you're not going to want to, use a blowtorch or, anything that's going to cure it too rapidly. So something like a hairdryer, an electric fan, it's absolutely perfect to dry it out. But if you're just leaving it in the room, you're probably going to be looking at sort of 40 minutes to an hour for it to cure up. So we've left it about an hour or so now just to dry up. So again, before we proceed on, just need to give it a light rubbing down, knock off any high spots or anything like that. Okay, so just give it a quick brush off, get rid of any dust. And then what we want to do before we apply the finishing coat of the compound is we're just going to damp down all the edges. So when we're applying the top coat, any excess will run off easily from the edges. So once we've done that, the final coat that we're doing is going to be a 3-to-1. So in between the first two coats. So mixing up 300 mils of the compound, with 100 mils, 300 mils of compound with 100 ml of water. Again, give that a good stir. Make sure all the lumps are out before carrying on. Now, with this one, you want it to be a little bit thicker, a little bit thinner, sorry, than the previous coat. So it gives you a nice smooth finish. Okay, so basically this is your sort of finished coat. So all you're going to do is apply some of the compound to the surface and float it out. So you want it to get a nice even coat all the way across, and you're just listening to hear that slight scratching sound while you're doing it. You don't want it to scratch all the way across like that. So you're just wanting it just thick enough so you're getting the odd scratch sound. Just add a little bit more. Yep. So as you can see, nice even coat all the way across. Now again, what you're going to do as that's drying up, you're going to want to leave it sort of 5-10 minutes, refloat it, you know, once or twice, just to get a nice smooth finish. As the compound is running down the sides, again with your wet brush, just make sure that you brush out any drips that are running down the sides. Like I said, just leave that sort of 5 to 10 minutes and then give it another float across. So after it's set up for 5-10 minutes, again, just come on, smooth over the surface. So it doesn't need to be perfect, doesn't need to be like plaster or anything like that, but as long as you've got a somewhat smooth surface, that's good to go. So there we are, we've got the nice finish on it now. So I'm just going to do final brush around the edges, just a light brush to remove any thick, and then again we're going to let that cure up for probably about an hour. Now once that's fully cured, we can go ahead and apply our finish using the Marbletop epoxy. Okay, so once you've finished applying the Marbletop composite, you'll want to let that set up for at least an hour till it's good and hard. Again, quick wipe down with the rubbing stone, and once that's complete, quick brush off, make sure there's no dust on it, and then you're ready to apply whatever effect that you want to, whether that's granite, the marble, metallics, so on and so forth. So in the next video I'll be showing you how to do the granite effect.